without a deal, there really isn't much of a business, right? You can't own an investment company without any investments. Real Estate Lab. Hey guys, this is chapter 4. We're going to talk about finding deals. This is one of my favorite parts of the business, so I'm very excited to go over this with you guys. There are a couple different ways to find deals, but I want to say first that this is one of the most, if not the most important part of this business, because without a deal, there really isn't much of a business, right? You can't own an investment company without any investments, and there's really not a lot of work to do in this business except for some of those startup items that we talked about and the networking and building your team and your website and stuff like that, right? Without finding a deal. And those other things are way farther down in the totem pole than finding a deal. So I just want to really stress that this is the number one thing, the number one action step that you need to start doing right when you get into this business. This is number one action step. So how do we find deals and where do we find deals? So the top 4 or 5 ways are going to be by talking to brokers, which is just like talking to a real estate agent, mailers, so getting addresses for property owners and sending them a letter, cold calling, finding phone numbers of owners and giving them a call or a text, online listings, going to LoopNet, CoStar, Crexy. There are a couple of different sites where you can find listings online. A lot of brokerages actually have online listings too, whether it's Berkadia, Marcus & Millichap, CBRE, JLL. A lot of these bigger companies, they have online listings oftentimes. So those are the primary ways you're gonna be finding deals. Next section, we're gonna go over a little bit of skip tracing. And Danny on my team is actually going to show you guys how to do that, which is a cool process of getting a address or a list of addresses and then being able to pull finer details of the owner, like their phone number, their email, stuff like that, so that you can reach out to them. So the goal with finding deals is to create a pipeline and to look at a lot of properties and get the details on these properties so that we can then underwrite the deal, really, which is the process. Underwriting is the process of figuring out what price makes sense to pay for a property, or like what's the maximum price you can pay to get a good return on your investment, and what is that return on investment going to be. And so that's the underwriting process. That's chapter 5. We're going to go over all that in chapter 5. But for right now, you've got to start bringing in deals and bringing in leads so that you can underwrite them and you can make offers. So in the next section, Danny's going to go over skip tracing and sending mailers and finding out the phone numbers for the owners. But right now, what I want to go over is what is your goal when contacting these people and reaching out to these people. So let's talk about brokers, for example. A lot of people are a little intimidated by talking to brokers. A broker's sole job is to go find properties to list, properties that are for sale, where an owner wants to sell, build a relationship with the owner, list the property for sale, and put it in front of buyers. If you're here watching this video and you're interested in buying apartments, you're a buyer, right? So it's a broker's job to put the information in your hands so that you can underwrite the deal and make an offer. Now, you don't want to waste their time. Obviously, be very respectful of a broker's time, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with you going and talking to brokers, whether you're experienced or not. Right, I recommend you at least have a base level of knowledge before doing this. Don't go in with zero knowledge talking to a broker because they're not going to take you seriously. But go in knowing what you want, knowing where you want to find a deal, which we've already talked about both, about what types of deals you want, what size, and what markets you want to buy in. Let the broker know that. Ask them what current listings they have available, what types of properties they have available. Ask them what properties they have coming up in their pipeline for sale. And then ask them to put you on their email list and to keep you in the loop. And then what I suggest you do with brokers is you follow up with them every 2 weeks to a month at the latest, and ask them, give them a call, ask them what's going on, what deals they have right now, what deals they have coming up, and can you look at any deals that they have currently. The key with brokers in building relationships is to show them that you're serious. There is no worse way to show them or there's no better way to show them that you're not serious than to get a deal sent your way and to not respond back to them or not give them feedback. The best way to build rapport with a broker is to talk to them, establish a little bit of a relationship, get deals sent your way from them. We're going to talk about this in a second, but what documents you want to get from them. But then you need to give them feedback. So if I'm a broker and you're calling me up, and there's tons of people calling me up, right, looking for deals because it's a seller's market. There's lots of buyers out there. And you want to buy a property from me, and I spend some time to send you over details and talk to you on the phone about a deal, and I send you everything over, and I get zero response from you, I get zero feedback, and you never tell me what you thought about the deal. I'm not going to take you seriously. Now, if you take the time to underwrite the deal, if you take the time to go drive by it and give me a call when you're there, if you take the time to give me a call after and say, hey, this is what I think, if you underwrite it and you make an offer and you give them honest feedback, regardless of if you're at their asking price or not, even if you're far off, but you give them feedback, the broker is going to take you seriously. And they're going to send you the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. And after a couple of these deals, you might get what we call the Holy Grail, which is an off-market deal, right? This is what we're really looking for, are the deals that aren't shown to anyone else, but they're shown only to you. And you're only going to get that if you build rapport and relationship with the broker. So what do you need to get when you're asking a broker or a seller, for information on the property? Because let's say you call a seller directly. Seller's not going to have a marketing package put together for this deal. They're not prepared to list it, right? You're doing potentially an off-market deal. In any scenario, there are two main things that you need to get in order to underwrite a deal. The first thing is a rent roll, sometimes abbreviated as RR, rent roll. And a rent roll is a document that shows us who the tenants are at a property, what type of unit are they in, what's the square footage, what are the rental rates, when does the lease start, and when does the lease end, and some other ancillary details. But those are the main ones. And so you need a rent roll because it's going to show you how many apartments are at the property. Let's say it's a 20-unit building. You're going to confirm that there's 20 units on there, and you're going to see how many of them are occupied, how many are vacant, and what the actual rents are currently. That's hugely important. You need to know, like I said, commercial real estate income is what we use to value the property. Income is produced by people paying rent. So the rental rates are extremely important in this business. You need to know that. The second document is called a T12 or a trailing 12 financial statement, T12 financial statement. Often it's just a T and then numbers 1, 2, T12. And a T12 is a 12-month, it's normally a month by month, there's a column for each month, financial statement that shows the income, the expenses, and the net operating income. And it'll be detailed out. I'll show you guys examples of both. And so a T12, hugely valuable. I'll pull one up right here. So guys, I have the documents pulled up here, the rent roll and the T12 that I told you about. I want to show you just a standard version of what these look like. So here you go. This is just a basic rent roll format. And you're going to see there's a unit number. We've got our tenant name. What floor plan is it? Square footage, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, renovated or not. That's not always on there, but it's a nice addition. Is it occupied or vacant? What's our market rent, which is market rent versus effective rent. Market rent is what should you be getting in the market. What have you set as like your target rent? And effective rent is what are you actually getting? What does your lease say that your rent is? Your lease with the tenant, right? Because you're going to go out there and market these units and say, hey, this unit's for rent at $949, but you get people walking through and, you might get somebody at $929, right, if they negotiate. Lease start, lease end, other charges. So obviously we're going to look down at this and we're going to see how many total units are there. Looks like there's 170 units total. And we can confirm that right here, 26-170. It started at 001 here. On this next page, we're going to see this is a unit mix. So the unit mix actually breaks down how many 1 beds, 2 beds, and 3 beds there are. And rent charge codes, a little bit more detailed. This is by floor plan. It shows you the square footage, etc. So that's a rent roll. Next, I was mentioning a T12. A T12 is a 12-month profit and loss statement. So this is a example T12. And you can see starting at the top here, it is a 12-month statement. We have July of 2018 through, this is through June of 2019. Okay. So top line here, we have market rent. This is our potential rent, which goes back to what I said about market rent. This is what we'd get every month if we were collecting what our ask was, our asking rent. And then we have, some losses here. We'll go over this more in depth in the underwriting section, but loss to lease, vacancy loss. I think you guys understand vacancy is losses for units that are not occupied, bad debt, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then we get into miscellaneous income, our gross operating income. So this is the total amount of money that we've collected every month and at the end of the year. And then we have all of our expenses, management fees, contract services, pool service, application fee, licenses, mileage reimbursement, office rentals, telephone, payroll for the manager, maintenance, leasing, all that good stuff. Property taxes, insurance, utilities, and then we get down to the all-important net operating income, right? This is a very important number. We're going to get into how that works in cap rates, but just remember, net operating income is our income minus our operating expenses. Income minus operating expenses equals net operating income. This number, 927,310, is extremely important. I'll go ahead and highlight that. So once you talk to a broker or a seller and you get those documents, we're going to underwrite the deal. Those are the things we need to go and underwrite a deal. We're going to go over that in the next section, as I mentioned. But I want to talk a little bit about what is important to bring up when you're talking to brokers or sellers. Your goal is to get to a number that you can offer them to where it makes sense for you to buy, but it also makes sense for them to sell. This is a business, and in business, negotiations always are occurring, right? It's like a sales process. The seller might want $2 million for their property. It may not be worth $2 million. You don't have to say this right away, but a part of your discovery process, whether you're talking to a broker or you're talking to an owner, is figuring out what price they want for the property. My first three things are always, could I get a rent roll? Could I get a T12? How much do they want for it? Or how much do you want for it? Once I figure that out, now I can go back on my end, do some research, figure out what's going on with the property, and then figure out if I have any more questions. And then very often I'll go drive the property, check it out. I'll go underwrite the property, run some numbers, and then I'll go back to them. I might have a couple questions. Hey, how are your utilities set up? Who pays utilities? When was the last time you replaced the roofs? When was the last time you replaced the parking lot? Have you done any major renovations to the property? If it's an on-market deal with a broker, oftentimes they'll have a lot of these answers already. Otherwise, you got to ask the seller. So really, it's a discovery process. You want to find out as much as you can about this property, but also with taking up as little of their time as possible to show them that you're professional. You can put this together. You're not going to waste a lot of their time. And then you want to come up with a number and come up with an offer. So the goal is to get to an offer quickly. When you're talking to brokers and you're talking to sellers, it will absolutely not fly to take a week or 2 weeks to get them turnaround response. You need to be on top of your stuff. When you talk to a broker, honestly, my rule is within 2 days, you should have them some feedback. If a broker sends you a deal, within 2 days, get them some feedback. You maybe don't need an offer, but get back to them. Ideally, same day or next day, you get back to them with some feedback, some thoughts. This shows them that you're extremely interested. Now, if it's a deal you're not interested in, they send it over and it's in an area you don't like, or the property is, they're asking $3 million and you look at the numbers and you're like, oh man, I'm at $1.5 million. Like, this is definitely not going to make sense. You can give them that feedback, but don't leave them hanging. Don't ever leave a broker hanging. Don't ever leave a seller hanging. Give them the honest feedback. It's good for them to have that feedback, because if they put a property out and it's overpriced, it's good for them to hear from probably multiple people. If you're thinking it, I'm sure somebody else is. It's good for them to hear from multiple people that their price is too high and it doesn't make sense. So always give them feedback in a nice way. You don't have to tell them, hey, dude, you're crazy. Your price is wild. Like, I don't agree with what you're doing. Just say like, hey, I looked through it. I know he's looking to get $2 million or $3 million, the seller. I'm coming in at 2.1. I'm just pretty far away, to be honest. And I don't know it's going to work out. Is it worth me sending an offer in, or hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I'm not coming at your offer or your asking price, and here's why, right? Well, your NOI was a little low, so you're asking a 4 cap, and the market cap rate's more like a 5.5, so I need to get a little closer to that. We're gonna go through all this stuff in a bit, and I'm gonna show you how to find those numbers. But you want to give them feedback. So again, talking to brokers, talking to sellers, always give them feedback. Give them feedback quick. Never leave them hanging. And it's a discovery process. So ask as many questions as you need to get to know the property better. The more that you understand the property before you get in and do your full under contract due diligence, the more you can know about the property, the better and the more accurate your offer is going to be. Because the last thing we ever want to do is make an offer and then change that offer downwards, right? You're never going to increase your offer once they accept it, right? But the one thing you don't want to do is make an offer, they accept your offer, and then you have to go back and do what's called a retrade or renegotiate, which is saying, which happens, right? Legitimately, it happens, and it's okay. But you want to avoid doing that often, and we want to mitigate doing that, right? If we can make an offer that's accurate, that represents what we're actually willing to pay, go under contract, do our due diligence, confirm that that price is okay for us, buy it at that price. We're keeping our word. We're being diligent, right? You're going to have a really good reputation in this business. If you go in and make offers and then you inspect the property and then you reduce your offer and say, hey, I'm retrading. I can't actually buy it for this. I need to be at this number. You're going to create a bad reputation for yourself. I've had buyers do that to me before. Makes me really not want to work with them again. If it's something that's legitimate that they found that I didn't know about, I'm okay with that as a seller. And I'm sure I've done it to sellers as well. I've been in situations where I've made an offer and I didn't know about something and I did some due diligence, found out, or hey, no bank really wanted to lend on this deal at that price, and so I needed to get a little bit better price for financing reasons. Like, it happens. It's a business. Those type of things happen. You need to protect yourself. But you want to mitigate that and minimize that as much as possible. So, guys, just a general overview of talking to brokers there, and what is a rent roll and a T12. Homework for Chapter 4. Guys, recapping Chapter 4, this is your homework. I want you to go online, Google multifamily brokers in your area. These are the companies I want you to look up. Write these down. Berkadia, Marcus and Millichap, JLL, Newmark, Knight and Frank, CBRE. Just start Googling those. Those are 5 of the big ones. And look into those, Google them, see if there's brokers in your market. Google multifamily brokers in whatever city you're in and insert that into Google and press enter. See what comes up. Start researching brokers in your area. Ask people that you know for referrals for brokers. Hey, do you know any brokers that are in my market? And I want to challenge you right now. Your homework is to go out and reach out to 10 plus brokers in your market. Go reach out to 10 plus brokers. You may or may not get a response from all of them. I want you to email all of them. I want you to call all of them. After you, and you could do that after you get a little bit more knowledge, maybe from the next chapter or two. But then within the next week, I want you guys to go and contact 10 brokers. Have a little bit of a base of knowledge, right? So you can go in and say, hey, do you have any deals I could look at right now? Do you have a T12 and a rent roll you can send me? I'm looking for 20 to 50 unit deals in this market. Have a little bit of this base knowledge. Have your 60-second elevator pitch ready and start talking to some brokers. Ask them for some deals, because next up, we're going to be going over underwriting, and this is something you need to practice a lot. This is a really important part of the business. So that's your homework. Go talk to reach out to 10 plus brokers and try and get on the phone with as many of them as you can.